It's that time to thank our sponsors, and we're going to run down this list. We're going to talk about the Fat Boy app, the locally owned mom and pop restaurant locator. Listen, if you're tired of eating from those chain restaurants and you want a mom and pop restaurant, download the Fat Boy app and become a dining diva or a fat boy today. Hey, go to their website at www.fatboyapp.com. Check it out. You get perks for becoming a dining diva or a fat boy. You're traveling this summer and you want somewhere local to eat that's not a chain restaurant, you're going to need this app. This app's going to guide you to where you want to go to that good food. So download them today, available on Android and iOS. That's the Fat Boy app. Become a dining diva and fat boy today. Stephen Watson at Watson's Transmission, he is your go-to guy. We got to thank him. Man, he's your go-to guy for transmission work. And I'm telling you, if my transmission ever goes out, I'm going to Steven. I don't know what else to do. I'm going to go to Steven and be like, hey, Steven, do your magic. Work your magic on this transmission because he can bring them back to life. If he can't fix it, then it's really broken. He's going to get you another one. So check out Stephen Watson at Watson's Transmissions. Ironstein Coffee there in Morganfield, Kentucky. You want some hometown brewed coffee, hometown roasted coffee beans there in Morganfield, Kentucky. My favorite's the Miner. I like that dark roast. I like it dark, good old dark, strong coffee is what I like. That's my favorite. So go check out Jerry and his buddy there at Ironstein Coffee in Morganfield. And while you're there, slip on in to Jen's General Store. Check her out. Hey, I went in there today to get a haircut from Jerry, and I walked through Jen's, and they got a little pathway. It's like the Candyland board is what it looks like. And it just kind of took me back. And there's candies, and there's drinks, and, there's man, they do milkshakes and sandwiches, and it's so cool. There's so many things in there to check out. A lot of local items. I think there's some local honey in there from a fella there that lives in the county. So there's all kinds of things there at Jen's General Store. Go back in time to when you were a kid, especially us Gen Xers, man. There's all kinds of our candies in there. I love going in there. Every time I go in there, it's you feel welcomed and you're taking a trip back in time. So check out Jen's General Store. Wolf's Customs, that's Jake Wolf in Waverly, has got you covered this summer. You need a radiator flush, you need some coolant, your vehicle trying to overheat because it's going to get hot outside, or your tires are just low, or you need a lift on your truck, you need your brakes changed. Holler at Jake Wolf at Wolf's Customs there in Waverly, Kentucky. Are you looking for a private property, a commercial property? You looking for your first house, your second house, your third house, your neighbor's house? It doesn't matter. You looking for some property to buy? Holler at Josh Parrish at BHG Realty. Listen, Josh has got it going on, man. He's a good dude. He's straight up with you, and he can find you the piece of property or the building or the land, whatever it is you're looking for. Josh is the guy to go to. I promise you that. He's going to help you every which way he can. And if he can't get it or doesn't know how to get it, he's going to reach out and he's going to exhaust all his resources for you because he wants to be your realtor. So check out Josh Parrish at BHG Realty for the next time you're looking for that home away from home, or you just want to buy your neighbor's home. It's for sale. Why not? Holler at Josh. He's going to take care of you. I promise you that. You're rolling around in Booneville, up there, Boone, Vegas, up there, Booneville, Indiana. You're up there at the McDonald's on top of the hill, and you look over and you see this place is called Warwick County Tire. Well, that's the place you need to go if you need tires. You need air in your tires. You need your tires plugged. You need your tires patched. You need tire work. You need brake work. Go see Billy at Warwick County Tire. He's going to take care of you like he took care of me. True story. I ordered some tires from him. Hey, dude, I was in and out in no time. Professionally done. Fantastic service. And I'm not just saying that because I know Billy and Billy's family. I'm telling you because he takes pride in what he does at Warwick County Tire. So go see Billy at Warwick County Tire up there in Booneville, Indiana, and Boone, Vegas. Give a new shout out to Hackney Door Company. We'd like to thank them for the apparel we're wearing today. You got the Hackney Door Company hat and shirt on. Shane out there in Crittenden County, out there in Marion, Kentucky at Hackney Door Company. Listen, you need garage doors, you need building doors, you need doors that open and doors that close and doors that don't squeak and doors. You need a door. Holler at Shane Hackney at Hackney Door Company. We're going to put that information up for you too. So give him a call for all your door needs. And we appreciate you, Shane, for sending us the shirt and the hat. And we definitely appreciate your support here on Front Porch America. So I think that's our sponsors. So let's get to the podcast.
Respect, no judgment. Open up, say what you wanna say. Be real, be kind, free speech. Make this a better day. You got a voice, a story to be heard. Share it on the front porch, America.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Front Porch America, the podcast. And today's guest is a local legend, accidental celebrity, if you will. That's what we just talked about that. Mr. Mark Lamb. Now, Mark Lamb is a pretty unique individual, and I say that because there's not a lot of storytellers left around. Uh, I grew up, and I had a teacher, Miss McDowell, and we had oral communications and
Yeah.
those classes, and I always did the speaking and storytelling, and one of my favorite one was Cake for Breakfast, the Bill Cosby,
Mm-hmm.
the Cake for Breakfast, and the story of Reelfoot Lake was two of my favorite stories that I'd like to tell. So, and hopefully here in a minute I can maybe con you into telling a story,
Okay.
maybe halfway through or
Sure.
before we finish up if you have something you're
Yeah.
thinking about. But I got you on here today because I want to learn more about you. I know some things about you, like you've traveled. Also know that you ready for this? I dug a little deep.
Uh-oh.
2018 National Storytelling Slam winner.
Yes.
Explain that.
Okay. So in Jonesboro, Tennessee, they have the National Storytelling Festival, and it is the International Center for Storytelling. Um, and people come from all over the world, and the slam is a competition, and you have to apply on a theme. Um, so they give you a theme, and then I applied maybe 2 years before I finally
Oh
got
wow.
in.
Okay.
And now I can't remember what the theme was that I won with,
Right.
but I finally got in with a story about Dolly Parton.
Okay. Because I noticed that was my next question. I noticed that you mentioned Dolly Parton in that
Yeah.
little, I guess, little intro to thanking everybody for thanking you or congratulating you on winning. And before we go any further, here's a little gift from
Oh,
us here and the
great.
Fat Boy app, one of my
Yay.
sponsors. So they always like to help me out by giving some gifts for my guests
Oh,
because I'm
awesome.
taking your
Yeah.
time up. So with that being said, you're a
Thank you.
graduate local boy
Mm-hmm.
from Union County, correct?
Yep.
Let's just
That's
start there. Let's start there.
okay.
Growing up, how you grew up. You tell what you want to tell. This is your story, and well, obviously you're the professional storyteller, not me. So,
Oh, that's a lot of pressure.
so
So grew up in Sturgis. My dad was an English teacher. I think that's important to know. And then eventually became a guidance counselor. My mom was a bookkeeper at the bank. But dad was really into education, of course, and writing. So I think that had a big influence on me because we had a lot of literature textbooks laying around. So I read a lot of stories, read a lot of poetry, learned to read early. And that's another connection with Dolly Parton and her literacy program, the
right.
Imagination Library. Um, and then went to Union County High School. And at that time, the arts in Union County were excellent. There was dance studios, plural.
Oh
There,
wow.
yeah, Danelle Duncan,
Okay.
and then Vicki Ross, Vicki Irvin eventually moved here. She was my first dance teacher here.
Oh wow. Okay.
Uh, and actually, her studio was in what we call the Officers Club at but it's Breckenridge Museum
Right.
now. Um, my grandfather was a carpenter and actually did a lot of the woodwork in there. So I have this real connection, you know.
So you got ties to a lot of people don't know what Camp Breckenridge is, and
Hmm.
I'm trying to get Mr. B, Mr. Bauer,
Yeah.
and Mr. maybe Bob Hyde in here to
Hmm.
kind of go into some of those details. Those historians here for the county. Um, so your grandfather was a part of building all that. That
Yes.
is really cool.
Yeah. He was a fine arts carpenter in, he worked for Fred Alloway Lumber, and he did cabinet making and door making and like more of the fine work. And he did a lot of the woodwork there. Anyway, I'm
Yeah, no,
I'm
that's
getting on a tangent about
I'll
all
sit
these
here and listen
different
because
elements.
I like this kind of
But
stuff.
Vicky
So
had a studio where the museum is, and actually Lisa and Gary Irvin lived upstairs in an apartment which is now like a bridal suite. So it was all these connections
that's
with
really cool.
families here.
Yeah.
But anyway, back to the arts in Union County. It was really strong. My brother graduated with Cassie Wesley or Cassie
Okay.
DePavia.
Yeah.
So and then there was Phil Shirey who went into set design, and there was Stephen Mills, who's a director of a ballet company now, and Craig Calloway, who's on the cover of Dance Magazine. So the people in my brother's
See, and that's
class.
funny because and that was kind of what we were talking about before. My whole goal with this podcast was to find those people that's done these things. And you've mentioned three or four names that I have never had no idea, like
Oh, and
accidental celebrities.
yeah, and
That's
they
really
were
cool.
they were really that class was my brother's class and other people as well, but they made a big impression on me because I was the little brother wanting to tag around with the older
Right.
brother and my brother Paul, and so seeing those people, they were in high school, but then I thought they were like grown folk,
Right.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
when
Well,
I
that's funny because I'm growing up and I'm thinking my dad's like 70 or 80,
yeah,
old man, and then I'm realizing he was the same age I am right now, and it
exactly.
was just weird, just kind
Yeah.
of one of those full circle moments. So yeah.
Yeah, it's strange. But anyway, so we did 4-H talent shows. Of course, church plays, that was a big thing. My first big role that I remember was Snoopy in like
Okay.
Christmas with Charlie Brown at
Oh, nice.
the
Yeah.
Cumberland Presbyterian Church in Sturgis. It was a non-speaking role, which I think is
You had a
interesting.
role. That's
Yeah,
yeah.
but it was a starring role,
Right. Yeah.
Snoopy's a pretty good
Yeah,
character.
he is.
So and then we did these 4-H talent show competitions. Um, and I mean, it would be huge productions, but you had minutes to put on this variety show, and you would compete locally, and then you'd go to the region, and then if you won that, you got to go to the state.
Wow.
And it was a really big deal
Yeah.
to be involved in all that, and had a huge influence on me. So and then I would be remiss if I didn't mention Judy Woodring. You were talking about your high school teacher. She
Yeah.
was the speech and drama teacher at Union County High School and won multiple state titles in speech and
Wow.
theater, and took productions on the road and produced shows at the high school that involved tons of kids, and it was just a really strong arts base when I was growing up
Do you
here.
think, and we'll get off track just a tad bit. Do you think, so Eric LaRue was one of my English teachers,
Hmm.
huge influence on me. He was very artistic minded. Um, Linda McDowell was the oral communication, speech, and
Hmm.
all that drama classes and stuff. And then Steve Carter
Oh yeah.
was, to this day, is probably still one of my biggest influences in school. He probably helped me from going down a wrong path at a certain point in my life, which like I owe him everything. Do you think now that education's changed so much, right?
Right.
You think it's the teachers that come in, or do you think it's the system itself that's broken? Because and I say that because I'm 45, I'll be 46 in November. We had a history teacher named Harold Grace. That man taught history. Like he was,
Hmm.
a lot of people didn't like him, I
Yeah.
felt like, but when he would talk, he would tell a story. I
Yeah.
guess is what it is.
Hmm.
And I had a lot of those teachers that would tell stories when they taught, except for Mr. American Math. He can, uh, I couldn't catch on to his
Right.
math for nothing. But so work on that, Todd. But anyway, so do you think that's changed? What do you think's happening there? Because you talk about the arts and stuff being pretty active back when you were growing up and involved in school. Do you think it's because? What's your opinion on that?
Well, I actually have lived in New York and taught in the public school systems there, and then I started coming back here, um, and teaching. When I was still living in New York, I would come back in February and March because it's brutal in New York
Yeah,
then.
I couldn't even.
It's cold. And my mom, needed me more at that time in case there was snow or ice or
Right.
whatever. and it just so happened that the curriculum specialist at the time was Patricia Sheffer, superintendent, our last superintendent, and they were testing in the arts and humanities on in dance, and they needed a resource, and she thought it would be a great fit to bring in someone who was from here,
Okay.
who had gone and done things. So I wanted to preface all that by saying, I've taught in different school systems. I had a dance company in Tennessee and taught at a magnet school, so I have a lot of base in the public education system. And so I wanted just to preface that I'm not bashing on
No, absolutely. Yeah.
Union
Yeah.
County or Tennessee, or it's just I have a good kind of base. And I feel like the way things have been set up, you know,
I think it's set up to fail.
yes, I think, the higher ups want education, public
Hmm.
education to go away.
Hmm.
If we're just being frank about it.
Right.
And I see these, in fact, my best friend, she's a second grade teacher in Knoxville, and I see teachers here in Union County that are like busting their butt and giving all they can and going above and beyond. But, if like I had a friend that was teaching theater but then she had to teach supplemental classes. This was in Louisville, and but they only gave her 5 minutes to get from one side of this big campus to the other, and that was a 15-minute
Track. Yeah.
walk. And so then, in order for her to get there and set up for the theater class, she didn't have physically enough time to get
Right.
there.
Should have gave her a golf cart or something.
Yeah,
Jeez.
so so she was trying to figure out how to make it all work, but long story short, it she was just set up to fail.
Yeah.
Uh, and I don't know if it's necessarily on purpose all the time, but
Hmm.
and there are always new systems and new acronyms to learn,
Yeah.
and we're advancing in ways, but then in other ways it's like trying to catch up with the next new thing. And a lot of the people making the rules aren't in education.
Right. Well, and that's where
They're in wrestling.
and
I don't know. It's
we'll
like
just kind of finish this out and we'll get back on your stuff. But that's where I don't understand is how can people who have never done the job, okay? You've got these office people up high in corporate that are making decisions for the people on the ground
mm-hmm.
that have never done the job of the people on the ground,
Yeah.
but are telling the people on the ground who do the job, who's got the education for that job, how to do it and
It
making those it makes no sense to me. It's and that applies to not only teaching but jobs across the board.
y-
Like it's ridiculous.
yes.
And then they don't want to listen to the people who are actually in there busting their butts day ins because we have some really dang good teachers here in Union County.
Oh yeah.
I've, when I was at the fire department in Morganfield Elementary, I would go and I would hang out with the kids at lunchtime. And those teachers in there, they care about their students. Sturgis Elementary. I mean, it's the whole county, the whole
Mm-hmm.
Union Town, everywhere.
Yeah.
And are there some bad apples out there? I'm sure there is. There's bad apples everywhere you go. It is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah.
But I think education is something that it's important, but they need to bring back the technical part of it too. Your welding
Mm-hmm.
classes, your shop classes, because we don't have, all these kids are going to college and getting degrees and whatever, which is fantastic. We need those doctors and those lawyers or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
we also need those plumbers. We need these, and they're paying just as good as some of these educated jobs with careers. So with that out of the way,
Well, and going full circle, we also need artists.
we do, and
That's important too.
artists, they're included in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. They're included in that technical aspect of it
Yeah.
because uh, obviously I guess you can go to like what is it Juilliard school, and
Right.
there's so you probably know way more than I do. Juilliard is one of the most famous
Yeah.
ones, but I always told myself that I should have got on a bus or something and head to California because
Mm.
I've always wanted to be an actor. I like to act, and actually
Okay.
when the Unicorn Players was still going on,
Mm-hmm.
we done a little like mystery dinner theater at Breckenridge Place,
Oh,
and
nice.
I got to be
Yeah.
a part of it. And it was so much fun, so much fun. So, the Moth Grand Slam.
Oh, the Moth Grand Slam. Yeah. Um, you want the short Moth story? or the long march.
Let's
I'll
tell
try to
your story.
I'll try to give you the Reader's Digest version. So when I was living in New York City, I had a dance theater company, and I got known for improvising with words and music and dance. So we would create these highly structured evenings of dance theater, but people would be given a subject matter. Let's say it's your mom. It's a Mother's Day show, or we're gonna talk about moms. And it was all personal narrative, all generated from people's memory and their stories, combined with music and dance. And one of the first producers I worked with, her name's Elise Long from Brooklyn. She watched the show, and she said, "You really need to go do this thing called the Moth." I had no idea what she was talking about. And for 7 years, I worked at her dance studio. She ended up hiring me to teach.
Oh wow.
And every once in a while, she'd go, "Have you done the Moth yet? Have you done the Moth?" So finally, I go and do the Moth. And I thought it was like people just sitting in a circle, like telling stories. Because, people from around here, I think, are natural storytellers.
Right.
And so I go in, I'm like, "What do I do?" And it's at a bookstore, and they're like, "Oh, you put your name in the hat." And I'm like, "But what do you talk about?" And they're like, "The theme tonight is fathers." And I'm like, "Oh, I can talk about my dad." I didn't know there was like a time limit. I didn't know anything. I just ignorant, which has helped me in my career a lot, my ignorance. So I put my name in the hat and I get drawn. And I think that night, I got cut off because I was going too long, and I ended up getting like second or third place.
Oh wow. Okay.
Then I figured out what this thing was. It's a storytelling competition, and I'd done speech team at Murray and competed at Murray, so I knew the competition edge of speech and theater. And I rehearsed and got my story down. And you don't even know if you're going to get drawn, so you have to
Okay.
tell a 5-minute story without notes on a theme. And you put your name in the hat. There may be 100 people with names in the hat, and only 10 get drawn. So anyway,
So it's kind of like improv, but not improv, I guess,
right,
if that
right,
makes any sense. Yeah.
yeah. And so I rehearsed and rehearsed, got drawn, and and I thought I nailed it, and I got last place.
Oh wow.
So I realized it's not just memorizing something and having it perfect, so to speak. It's more about just telling a story. So then I worked up my Dolly Parton story. Um, and that Dolly Parton thing had been a dance theater piece. It had had many incarnations, because I'd lived in East Tennessee and really fell in love with Dolly Parton and her mission.
Yeah.
Um, and I say that without any irony. She's like a spiritual guide for me.
Yeah.
So I worked up my Dolly story, and then I won. And then from there, you go to a grand slam, and I rehearsed and rehearsed for the grand slam and got last place. And then I started realizing, you know, learn the lesson,
Right.
just
Hey,
tell your
don't
story.
feel bad about getting picked last place, or coming in last place, or getting in school. They'd line up, the kickball teams, the foot, whatever.
Yeah.
I always got picked last.
Oh, me
So
too.
I got you, man. I
Yes,
got you,
you
and that's okay.
understand.
I'm over it now, people. But
So,
so
um,
karma's a bitch, is what they
mhm.
say, and I think it's kind of come back and bit some people in the butt for picking me last place. And then actually, I'm just kidding, because I realized I probably sucked just as bad as they thought I did. So, but anyway, yeah. So the Dolly Parton thing, you come in last place.
So I, won with Dolly, did the grand slam, did horribly, and then I kept going back, because then I'm one that if I set a goal, I don't get fixated on it, because organically things can change and you can learn new things. But with the Moth, I was like, okay, I need to win a grand slam. And I would go back and I'd win a slam, and then go to the next grand slam, and I'd do okay, or I'd get second, or I can't remember where I'd fall, but I felt good about my rhythm and where I was going. And then I was here teaching. Um, and I was going up to visit my sister in Louisville. So all that was happening in New York City, but I was here going to visit my sister in Louisville, and the Moth is in Louisville as well.
Okay.
Um, so I Googled and saw that when I was going to be there, there was going to be a slam. So and it happened to be that night.
Oh wow.
So I was driving to
Isn't that funny
Louisville.
how it all worked
I
out like
know
that?
it's weird. So it's Dolly,
That's
the omnipotent Dolly. So I was like driving there and made up the story, and the theme was hair. Um, got there, got my sister. I was like, "Will you?"
so you don't know the theme until you get there,
You
or
do
you
know
do
the
know. Okay,
theme,
they give
yeah.
you
So
time to.
they put on the website the theme.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
finally learned that.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so worked up the story. And sister and I went, and if you're picked first or second, you're pretty much guaranteed that there's no way you're going to win. It's the judges, they usually pull from the audience, and it's usually in a venue where there's alcohol.
Right. So
Uh,
that helps. That helps.
and so as things go along, it's usually just traditionally the back half, someone's going to win in the back half. So you kind of know if you're picked like first or second. And in my mind,
So, like, I don't
Mhm.
mean to interrupt you, but when you say the audience, they pick. Is it the applause of the audience? Is it how the audience is
No,
engaged, or the
they
judges
pick
actually judge
judges.
themselves? Okay.
So they actually
Because I
usually
didn't know if like maybe closer to the end, everybody's just like either just trash and just woo,
yeah,
and
it can
that's
get
how it goes.
no, they usually pick a set, like a team of judges, and it'll be like three sets of three,
Okay.
and they kind of name themselves. But it, like, you and I could go watch the Moth, and they may come up and go, "Hey, would you guys judge tonight?"
And
And
what are some of the things they judge on? Do you,
you have to be on time and on theme.
okay.
Um, and then it's just personal preference, really.
Okay. I see. Whether you really like the story and
If
engaging or not.
if it's engaging, and in that setting, it's not always who's the best storyteller, the best presenter. Sometimes stories just tell themselves
Mm.
because the stakes are so high that it's just a compelling story. I mean, I've seen people just stammer and stutter through things
Yeah.
that aren't really performers or presenters, but they have great stories. And I think, everybody has a great story.
Yeah.
And part of my mission in life now is just to help people tell their story and tell it in a succinct and compelling way
Yeah.
that it touches the most people.
That's what I
Yeah.
like.
So,
That's awesome. That's awesome.
although I'm being very verbose today,
No,
but
that's awesome. That's
I'm
really
not
awesome.
taking my own advice. So, do the hair thing. I get pulled second and got an okay score, and thought, I'm glad I got this story out. I
Right.
like this story. And then at the end, I thought, well, I'm not good at math like you were talking about. And so I'm like, each story goes, and I'm doing the
Trying to
math, and I'm
calculate
like,
your
well,
wins.
this woman beat me or by like
Right.
point 0.1 or something. So I was just enjoying the stories. And then my sister's like, kept hitting me. I'm like, what? And she's like, I think you've won. I was like, I don't think I won. Just, you won. I was like, really? And then people in front of me they had a calculator, like, you won. So anyway, I
Wow.
won that.
Okay.
And then the Grand Slam, what they do is, out of the 10 last group of winners, they all bring them together for a
So how
Grand
many people
Slam.
are in these? Like, does it vary? Is it
It's 10 a night.
okay? So
They
okay.
pull 10 names a night. And then once there are 10 winners, then they do a Grand Slam of the best
But
10.
there's a whole bunch of people that come and,
Mm,
and put in for it, and it's just luck of the draw, I guess. Or
right. It's
oh
just
wow.
luck of the draw. And that's
Okay.
the other thing about it, Rick, that was so. I mean, I know a lot of people that just go to the Moth all the time, especially in New York. New York, they have 4 a month.
Oh wow. Okay.
In Kentucky, they have 1 a month. But like, and they go all the time. And I know some people that have won 30, 40, 50 moths. One guy that travels all over the country going to
Just
different
doing
ones.
moths.
But it's so nerve wracking
I
because
can
you work
imagine.
up a story and then you may not get pulled. So many times I would go and, I'm pacing and sweating and warming
Right.
up and, and then you don't get pulled.
Yeah.
It could be really daunting. But anyway, I won that night. Got to come back for a Grand Slam. I was still living in New York, but it just so happened it fell in December when I was going to be, I think that was right, when I was going to be back here for Christmas or whatever. But it was at the Kentucky Center for the Arts, which was
I think it was
always,
October of 16.
oh, it was October.
I,
Oh,
I, s-
because I was
I done some
teaching.
research. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
I was here teaching in October because I would come in October and do one unit, and then I would spend February and March and do
Yep.
the rest. So anyway, I'm glad you told me that. I knew it was cool, but one of my dreams when I was at Murray, my best friend's from Louisville, and her mom would take us to see people at the Kentucky Center. So I saw Barishnikov,
Oh wow. Okay.
Twyla Tharp, Alvin Ailey, great, incredible dance at the Kentucky Center. And so the Grand Slam was at the Kentucky Center. So, my inner dialogue is always, I'm from Sturgis. I'm proud of that.
Right.
It, but like, I think, oh my gosh, I made it to the Kentucky
Yeah.
Center.
Right.
Or
That's
like, the New York Times gave me a review. Or,
right.
like,
Yeah.
I'm always just
It's your NFL.
amazed and
Yeah.
grateful that I was able to get to these places a lot, most by accident. But anyway, I did the Grand Slam, and all these Murray folks that I graduated with, and people that I know from Louisville, and people from here drove up to see me, so that was really special. And I told probably my favorite story, which is about my dad, and I won.
So when you get to the Grand Slam, do you have a theme or do you get to do your own?
You
Or
have a theme.
okay.
And again, now I don't even remember what that theme
Right.
was that time. What was the theme? You know, I try, and they kind of give you advice to not get too fixated on the theme.
Right.
Like if so, what I would do if when I'd see the theme, then I would just let inspiration come, and then I wouldn't get too fixated on it because it can get a little um cliche if you're like too on theme
Yeah.
or you're trying to make it work
Just
on theme.
forcing something to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
You just kind of want to let it flow. Like the hair story, it's hair and it's going to be pretty much on theme
Right.
because that's
Not a
so
lot you
specific.
could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was I had achieved that goal with the moth, and then I never did a moth after that.
That was it.
It was too nerve wracking. It was just like I was getting older, and that adrenaline drop,
Right.
and I I mean, no matter what, even now, coming here, I get a little nervous,
Yeah.
which I think is important.
I think if you stop getting nervous, you've lost that passion for it, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. I get nervous when I have guests here.
Yeah.
Not just because I'm opening up my house to somebody that's never been here, but I'm sitting down with them some for the very first time.
Right.
I know of a lot of people that I have, but there have been some that I've never met and never really associated with, and it's nerve wracking. So
Yeah.
if you lose that, then you've lost something, in my opinion.
Right. Now, and I can control that more. And I'm an old show pony. You just, throw me out there. I'm going to be okay,
Yeah.
But I still get, and the thing about the moth is, every time the hand went into the pot, you don't know if you're going to be
It's
drawn or
just
not. So
yeah,
it's that anticipation of like, okay, this could be me. I got to be ready. Okay, this could be,
just yeah,
I'm getting old. I just didn't want to. I
yeah.
don't
I
want
mean,
that kind of.
right.
It was just I really admire and am amazed at the storytellers that I know that continue to do it and continue winning. But I also if I'm honest, kind of feel like if you've won 30, 40, 50,
I mean,
like,
just let somebody else
like
do
let Jordan
it.
sit this one out.
Yeah, yeah.
So LeBron can come,
Right, yeah, yeah,
we don't have to, we don't have
yeah.
to keep, but I'm not criticizing them too much,
Oh
but
no, I'm a Jordan fan. Jordan's the best there's
yeah,
ever been, and that's period. The
yeah,
end. And people think LeBron is, but anyway, that's just my opinion because I'm a '90s kid, and it is what it
right.
is. So yeah, and we'll move on to. I've been watching a lot of your TikToks and Facebook stories, and something that I like is, and I think it's the way you just say it because it's really calming. Is "Hello World" when you start a story.
Oh yeah.
Is that something that you've always done, or is it something you do just for those videos?
Oh
Or
yeah, you looked into the TikTok where I've been reading poetry.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
You know, the Hello World is I've moved back here to take care of my mom during the pandemic. I was here, and then I realized when she handed me her keys about 4 months in, she was like 88,
that you weren't
89.
going nowhere else.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
this was it. And I kept thinking, well, in 2 months, like I'll figure something out and I'll move back. And it
right,
just and then I bought the house next door to her, so we didn't kill each other and we both had our own space
right,
and that
yeah,
kind of thing. But I wanted to remember that I have friends all over the world and I've been blessed to travel. And that I may feel a little isolated here. Although Union County is a big world for me,
right,
and it holds a lot of weight for me. So I'm not saying that
right.
because we're all celebrities here.
Yeah,
What's that song? Everybody dies famous in a small town.
that's right. Yeah,
That's how I feel about here. But I wanted to remember that all the other people around the world that I know, and so I just
right.
say hello world,
I like that. Yeah,
and I started reading a lot of Mary Oliver poems. Just after November, it was a really hard time, and I thought I need some sort of meditation that I can share with people. Because really, all my work too, the storytelling, the dance, the choreography, it's rooted in um, community, and it's rooted in trying to change the world
right.
for the better, and have openness and um, providing platforms for connection and for people to tell their
Have you ever thought
stories.
about like opening a dance studio here, or what's
Yes, and I've been approached by multiple people, which feels very
right,
nice, including my brother, about opening a space. But I saw studio owners and have friends that are studio owners. And did you ever watch Dance Moms? did,
so
did you ever see that?
I'm probably telling on myself because I'll sit here and I'm like, oh my gosh, my wife sit here and watches all that trash TV, Dance Moms. So I don't think we never really watched a lot of Dance Moms,
Right.
but the Honey Boo Boo stuff, 90 Day Fiance, all that,
Yeah. Guilty pleasures.
reality TV.
Yeah.
I'm not talking bad. I mean, everybody has can be their own star in their own way. But Dance Moms, I've seen a few
Look,
episodes.
maybe
Yeah,
some clips or
so
something.
I'm
So,
gonna tell you something about me.
uh-huh.
I wear boots.
Yeah.
I've had blue collar jobs. I've done everything, but absolutely love me some theater. I love like my favorite is Les Mis.
Oh, yeah.
That is absolute my favorite, and like
Yeah.
it gives me goosebumps.
Hmm.
Just and I'll drink my beer and I will sit there
Yeah.
and while everybody else is drinking champagne and wine
Yeah.
and watch some Les Mis. I don't care what anybody. I got the soundtrack on my
Yeah.
phone. I listen to it. So you can judge me if you want because you're wrong.
It's funny. One of my childhood friends, he just got back from New York with his wife, and he's rough and tumble and did electronics, and he's like, you can call me whatever you want, but I'm gonna go to New York and see musicals if it kills me. He's like, I live for that
Like
stuff.
that's I want to see. Obviously, the original cast of Les Mis is a lot of them have gone on, but I want to see it at the Fox Theater. I want to see it
Oh,
performed at the Fox Theater. Like Here I am, people that know me. Telling you right now, I want to go see that theatrical event, play, musical, whatever you want to
Right.
call it, at the Fox Theater. I think it would be so cool, either in St. Louis or Chicago. Either one would be cool.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
So
it's Les Mis. I'll tell you just a quick story about Les Mis. A friend of mine was invited on this incentive trip. Her family was franchised their gas stations through a big oil company, and this
so
was
they got a little bit of money.
in the
Okay.
90s, you know, and the franchisees send you on these, incentive trips or rewards or something.
Right,
I don't
right.
know. But the last night of this trip, we were in Paris, and we were at the Conciergerie, the big prison where Marie Antoinette was held,
Right.
and it's this huge Gothic arches and stuff, and they bring in a whole orchestra, and they brought in the leads from the London cast of Les Mis, and this was the
Wow.
original London
Yeah.
cast. And they walked through while we were having dinner singing pieces of Les Mis. It was an, I've I've been in the performing
That's
arts. I've
crazy.
never made a lot of money, but I've been, knock on wood, really lucky to like experience all these things
The experiences
because
is so
my
cool.
career and my connections with people, have led me to travel and experience all these incredible things on like nothing.
Right. And
you
how
know?
cool is that? And that's,
Yeah.
we've told the kids, I've told the kids, don't just stay here. Go explore. If you want to
Hmm.
move somewhere, go somewhere. Our oldest daughter just moved to Maryland,
Oh yeah.
which is amazing. They need to go. There's a lot more here than Union County, but come back to Union County because this is your home.
Yeah.
But they need to go explore.
Yeah.
They need to see culture, different cultures, and experience things like that. So that's really cool that you have been able to do that.
And I was just telling a younger friend of mine uh, yesterday, I was like, education can never be taken away from you. And travel, those that can never be taken away. And if you can open your mind enough to kind of immerse in another culture and
Mark, I think that's a problem with this damn world today. Is people are so close, and we can do a whole nother podcast on it.
yeah,
People are so close minded
yeah.
on things, um, and it's sad. It really is. But
Now that leads me full circle about the storytelling piece. I've done a lot of different things, but the most healing thing that I've seen happen for me personally and with me coaching storytelling is if people tell their stories and other people can receive them, that's when the healing and bonding and it could be disparate stories, but there's a common thread in so much of it. If you're able to just receive the story and if you're able to have the guts to tell it,
right,
you know, and to tell it well.
tell it well. Yeah,
That's the other thing, I can be, woo woo, gushy feeling and all that stuff, but I'm a coach and I was a competitive storyteller and a
right.
competitive speech team
This is your
person.
career.
Yeah,
Right.
and in the performing arts from the time I was little, we were competing in 4-H, so I can very much put on my hat and go, yeah, the part about your dead cousin was really compelling, but you didn't tell it well enough. Let's
Yeah,
work on that.
yeah.
Let's refine
I'm
it.
about to make you cry.
You're right. Like so.
When I'm
Anyway,
done, you're gonna be able to do it on demand.
yes.
So, so yeah, that's really cool. That's the Dolly Parton story. I'm sure you have some stories that you probably have forgotten that you've told them through the years, but do you still remember the Dolly Parton story?
Oh yeah.
How long is that a 5 minute story? Is that
Uh, 5 6 minute stories,
so
something
you
like that.
what's the longest that you've done in competitions and stuff? Do they normally stay around the 5 10
Mm-hmm.
minute thing, I guess?
Yes, it's usually like 5 to 7 minutes. They give you like a grace minute.
Okay.
Um,
To kind of wind it down, I guess.
mm-hmm.
So,
And but like the Dolly Parton story, it ended up being I've done it in several incarnations that were evening length pieces.
oh wow, nice.
It ended up for her 70th birthday. I had lived in Knoxville, Tennessee for 14 years and had a community based dance company there. And that really cemented my love for Dolly being in East Tennessee. And, Dollywood was 45 minutes
Right.
away and, that kind of thing. And she is an ever present piece there, not only in, business and art, but in people's lives. Like, oh, my aunt had cancer and, Dolly sent me money and like real personal
That's
stuff.
crazy.
She's like really good that
Oh,
way. And
she's the real deal.
yeah, she's totally the real deal. And I could tell you 1,000 Dolly stories, but the so for her 70th birthday, well, before that, I did a storytelling tour of the South
Okay.
and went to Knoxville and invited the head of the Dollywood Foundation to come and see the story. And I had met him before through a musician friend I'd worked with. And he saw it and came up to me and we talked about how could this story go on and benefit other people. So he connected me with the Knoxville chapter of the Imagination Library, and I partnered with the Knoxville Library and that chapter and created this evening length piece. And because I'd worked with so many musicians in that area, I invited all the musicians that I had worked with, and they covered Dolly's songs throughout.
That's
And
so cool.
she ended up sanctioning that story and sent a video to open the show.
That's
Now,
really
I've
cool.
never met her,
Right.
and I always joke that I think if I met her, I might like spontaneously combust into
Right. Yeah.
like pink glitter
Yeah.
and butterflies,
Right.
But
So-
but and part of me really wants to meet her.
yeah.
She's about to be 80, and part of me is like, just let her be
Yeah.
this kind of this kind
Just
of
she's
thing.
floating out there in
Yeah,
that little realm. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway,
That's really cool.
so yeah, it's called A Boy and His Dolly, and that was the story that was seminal in changing my whole life.
So let's tell that story. Would you
Oh,
tell that
you want me
story?
to tell that story? Okay, he's put me on the
Oh
spot.
yeah. Yeah. You need a minute? Take a minute.
No, I'll just take a breath and take a little drink.
Okay. You didn't know you were gonna come and have to tell me a story. did
No,
you?
I'll have to tell you this story.
Surprise.
Okay, and hopefully I'll remember it all because I haven't rehearsed it in a long time. But I'm just going to tell it to you.
Yeah.
Um, the first time I remember seeing her, she came down out of the ceiling and landed right in the middle of our TV room. No, Rick, she descended on a red velvet rope swing. And right before her feet touched the ground, this heavenly voice on high proclaimed, "Ladies and gentlemen, Dolly Parton." She fluttered off that swing, her hair all done up like gold and spun sugar, wearing a pastel bell-bottom pantsuit with a sequin butterfly covering her enormous heart. Well, I thought she was one of the most angelic things that I had ever seen. And I waved to my mother and I said, "Look, Mama, ain't she pretty?" And my English teacher father reminded me that ain't is not a proper word. And then my mother turned to me as my 9-year-old self sat there on the sculptured shag carpet and said, "Mark, honey, I wouldn't walk across the street to meet that tacky woman." See, even though we were from a small town in Kentucky, my parents didn't care much for country music. They thought it was for honky tonk and beer drinking hillbillies. And my two older brothers, well, they liked the heavy hitting chords of rock and roll. So when Dolly sang that love was like a butterfly, oh, it was like this soft, sparkly, gay place for me to land. And her songs, they told great stories that had messages about love and kindness and acceptance. Now, even though my mother didn't care much for Dolly, my father and my two older brothers didn't seem to mind watching her religiously on her TV show from 1976 till 1977. And then the show got canceled. But Dolly went on to do bigger things. She started crossing over into pop music. She started making movies. She even appeared on the cover of Playboy magazine. Well, you couldn't walk into a grocery store without seeing her name plastered over every gossip rag in the checkout line. There were rumors of love affairs with leading men: Burt Reynolds, Sly Stallone, Kenny Rogers. There was talk about her freakish, unnatural plastic surgery. And then there are the whispers of lesbianism. Oh, shocking. Dolly was becoming a great American punchline. I remember one time she was on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. My parents let me stay up late. And I remember Johnny saying that he would give a year of his salary just to get one peek under her dress. To me, Dolly was becoming a joke. And I was becoming a teenager. And I felt lonely and confused and misunderstood and angry. And I painted up my face and I dyed my hair and I jacked my bangs up to the heavens. It was the 80s. And I fell out of love with Dolly. And I fell in love with another blondie, Deborah Harry, and the new wave and punk music coming out of London and New York. And when I started listening to certain politicians and evangelical leaders, I started doubting that I even belonged here. And then she reappeared to me. Dolly Parton, live from London. She came out on that stage, and she was just as soft and sparkly as I remembered her. She started singing those old songs, and as I watched her on that TV, I started hearing them with fresh ears. And the camera, it panned down into the audience, and there were young men and women with their faces painted up and their hair dyed and their bangs jacked up to the heavens, even mohawks and safety pin piercings. And I hated to admit it, but they looked totally cooler than me. And there they were at Dolly Parton's feet with fistfuls of flowers singing Jolene, 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 Jolene. And when I listened to those songs, I felt like a backsliding Baptist opening the Bible again. They reminded me that Dolly Parton's music had taught me a lot. That it's okay to be from a small town. Or just because you have a lot of money does not mean you're rich. But I think the most important thing I realized in that moment was that Dolly Parton wasn't some sort of unnatural abomination. And neither was I. Now, I could go on and tell you how my devotion for Dolly deepened over the years, about her most successful literacy program in the world, the Imagination Library, her honors, her accolades, and now how she's become a living legend. But instead, I'd like to close this story the way that Dolly used to close it. on her TV show in the 1970s. You have to imagine that the camera starts to pull in real tight on her face, and the lens is all Vaselined up, kind of the way the Martha Stewart show used to be before she went to prison. And Dolly looks into the camera and she says, "And now, I hope life treats you kind. And I hope you have all you've ever dreamed of. Oh, and I do wish you joy and lots of happiness. But above all of this, I wish you love." Thank you.
Man, man, wow. That's powerful.
Thank you.
That's powerful. That's yours. It's always going to be yours. And I can tell that, acting or not acting, I can tell when like the emotions were raw. Like there's some deep meanings behind that story you just told. That's an amazing story. And I'm going to share the far out of that.
Oh, thank
I'm
you. I
probably gonna.
left some stuff out.
No, it was you. I wouldn't have known it. Like it
uh,
was really good. It was It's powerful.
Thank
It
you.
kind of tells your story in a totally unique way that I've never heard somebody tell their story. If that makes any sense to you, and that is
Hmm.
so cool. And we're,
I'm
that is
having a
crazy.
realization sitting here. And I'm 59 now, and I'm still learning. My mom's 93. She's still learning. I think, you know, that in real life, so to speak, I have to kind of control the emotions and I think growing up queer in a small town and like you learn how to try and be something that you're not. But when I'm on stage, that's who I really am.
Yeah.
So like telling you that story, that's where I feel most connected and where I can feel most vulnerable
Wow.
is on stage.
Yeah.
Now, in real life, that's harder for
It
me to
is.
do.
Yeah. It's. I mean, couldn't even imagine. I had a gentleman on, Stephen Summers, on that is gay, and he done a little drag, and
Hmm.
and he was telling me about that a lot of stuff off camera that I wasn't sure he wanted on camera, so we talked a little bit off camera, and it's crazy.
Hmm.
And I told him, I said, I don't understand why people cannot agree to disagree but still love each other.
Hmm.
That's how I grew up.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you vote for or what you believe in. I can agree on topics that you don't agree on me with and
Hmm.
still be your friend and still be a best friend.
Right.
Some of my really good friends, I don't agree with a lot of stuff they do or they
Hmm.
say or they believe,
Right.
but it doesn't affect our friendship. It doesn't make me think any less of you
Hmm.
just because I don't agree with certain things.
Right.
Where's that gone?
You know,
And this is a dramatic turnaround from that
yeah.
story.
Um,
But I mean, and
from
it's kind of leading me to my next little
okay.
segment. So,
For me, I feel like right now there's a line in the sand,
mhm.
and I'm not going to pretend it's not there. So uh, there's some things that and people that I've had to step back from, and the whole agree to disagree thing is like I'm not going to even broach that, because if you are doing things that directly affect my well-being at
Mhm.
not and I don't mean like I may have to pay a higher tax, or I may,
Right.
bread may or eggs, or, I'm talking about like me existing in the world. you know to me, then we have to find new ways in to hopefully shift that kind of thinking, because that's am I making
No,
sense?
you are 100%. Yeah.
It's the and this a culture of um really judging really quickly. So going back to art and storytelling, I was trained by a woman named Liz Lerman on critical response. And the first thing in the critical response process with her is, what did you like? So, like when I watched your podcast, when you asked me to be on, I
Yeah.
wanted to see, what you were doing. And the first thing I see is what I like. Oh, I liked when Michelle talked about this, and I liked that he asked this question. I like this. So my framework is what's going right, you know? It's like I grew up in Sturgis, kind of like Mayberry.
Right.
And now it's where people are trying to revive it. It'll never be the same, but like, what is working
Right.
instead of what's always wrong? What's
And you
working?
don't see that. You see what's wrong.
Hmm.
What this person's doing or this person. You don't see what's working.
And you get mired, and then that leads to depression, and anxiety, and we have a mental health crisis in this county, big
Mm.
time. And but I see, that if we could look on the brighter side of things,
Yeah.
I think that's helpful.
Yeah, I think we've lost the ability to sit down, talk something out, and compromise.
Hmm.
If that makes sense to you, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
Um, we're not perfect. I'm not perfect by no means. I screw up on a daily, but I try to be better. I
Hmm.
try to every day, and I don't know who's actually is the founder of this quote, author of this quote, but nothing changes if nothing changes.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
That is. I heard that a while back, and man, that's powerful. Nothing changes if nothing changes.
Hmm. Yes. Yeah. And you've I think it's important that you be the agent of change. And it could be, uh, you know, you can't find your keys every day. Well, and
So let
then
me
you.
ask you a really hard question, and this is more for. I'm not versed in a lot of different cultures or lifestyles. How do these people? Not these people? How do people have that conversation about, let's just say, drag in the schools and going to these libraries and teaching the kids?
Hmm.
How does I know you don't do drag, but I
Yeah.
mean, being in the LGBTQT, I probably said it wrong because I'm
That's
not
all
versed
right.
in it because I just love people and I
Yeah.
don't care, you know.
Right.
Um, but how do they have that conversation and it go the way both people want to go, want it to go? Like, how would you and I? Because I have certain beliefs, I have
Hmm.
certain feelings and thoughts about it, quote unquote, and I'm probably wrong and I hate it being pushed on kids, right? I want it to
Hmm.
be the child, their choice, their
Right.
decision, not a teacher's decision to do this, this, and this, right? If
Hmm.
that does that make any sense? And hopefully to God that don't make me sound horrible because I
Right.
don't mean it that way. But how do you have that conversation? How do you have those hard conversations?
Well, you know, how do you have the hard conversations? I think just going back to what I said earlier is like listening to the story. Like what's the story? Why is this program in place? Where did it come from originally? Because if you just really listen, it's not as toxic, and
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the culture wars, it's there to divide us
Right.
and to get votes. um as far as the whole thing about stuff in the schools, that just is, I don't see that happening.
Right. Right.
I've never seen that happen.
I wanted to bring it up, but just because
you
I've
know
heard,
I
and
think Evansville had drag queens reading to children, but I will say one thing is, like, oftentimes it's disturbing to me that how that's so sexualized,
mm,
that
I've
that
never thought of it like
that
that.
seems to be what the focus is from the people that are concerned about it. Is
That
everything sexualized in their mind? And so that I'm not seeing it that way. this is someone who's in a costume
It's art.
being silly and
Mhm.
having
Okay.
fun, who love kids,
Right.
and they're not, and they're reading, Dolly Parton books,
Right. Right.
like they're reading
I
The
think you
Little
just.
Engine That Could.
I mean,
you know
you may have just broke it open. Like the whole people seeing it sexualized. You know, I never thought of it that maybe that's how it's being portrayed. You know, maybe it's being
yeah.
portrayed.
and
That's
it
interesting.
and there's the, if you look statistically at where is abuse happening, it's not drag queens.
Right.
It's not drag
Right.
queens. And you know who it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
It's preachers, it's priests, it's Boy Scout leaders. I mean, good Lord, I didn't think I'd talk about this, but
Right.
it just is amazing to me how the LGBTQ community has been targeted as just this ruinous, villainous uh, group of people that are going to be the fall of Western society. And we make up a very small percentage.
Right.
And I'm not the other thing, going back to drag, because I've worked with drag
Hmm.
queens, have very very close friends that do drag. It's an amazing art form, um, that really was insular in our culture, and it's those folks who threw the first brick.
Yeah.
Trans and drag folks had had enough. Judy Garland had died that day, and that's don't
Just set them
and
off.
and yeah, it was enough.
Right.
The mafia was running Stonewall, and they had had enough, and they burned take grain alcohol and lock the police in, and they were ready to fight. Um, so I have a lot of respect for those group of folks because I stand on their shoulders.
Okay.
And so to villainize them, it is, to me, very egregious. And also it's really, that was a hidden world,
Hmm.
that was a safe space. And a lot of drag performers, they don't want to read to children, and they don't want children at their shows.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
100%.
but I've gone to drag brunch, and there have been kids there, and the drag performer will do Baby
I mean,
Shark,
they're
and
they're
we all have a
humans.
good time.
They're humans, and they have families just like everybody else. You know.
Yeah.
Um, I'm not. Human rights
Right.
is where I stand. I
Hmm.
think every person, every human, deserve the same rights.
Yeah.
That's my stand
Yeah.
on everything. It doesn't matter if you're gay. It doesn't matter if you're straight. If you're Jewish,
Hmm.
Asian. It doesn't matter. Human rights is what I believe every person that walks this earth deserves.
Hmm.
And I don't know where that groups me at, but I think by saying it that way, it includes everyone,
Right.
right? So,
Yeah.
kind of because I don't want to say that I'm an activist for this. I'm an activist. I'm an activist for human rights. I believe every human on this earth has the ability to obtain the human rights, just
Hmm.
like a straight guy versus a gay guy. We should have the same rights. We should be
Right.
able to love who we want to love, do it because I'm not judging you at the end of the day.
Hmm.
You know, it's not my place to do it, and I'm into theater,
Hmm.
and I damn sure want you to be my friend because
Right.
you have those connections. You tell those stories that
Hmm.
I love and appreciate. Just because you decide to choose one lifestyle or a lifestyle chooses you, doesn't mean that we've got to hate
Hmm.
each other. Does
Right.
that make any sense to you at all?
Oh yeah.
Because it's just so sad. It's sad, is what
It's
it is.
yeah, and really, I have to say, I am so I did this little 3-minute speech at a board of education meeting
Right? Yeah.
because
Yeah.
one of the board members said some really, just
Disgusting things.
really disgusting things, were beyond the pale of even my more conservative friends and family
Right.
found it
Yeah.
shocking. um, and part of it, kind of reference children, which was so hurtful. And I think it's cool. Your
It
son,
was the craziest thing.
it was
Like it
so
was just like
wild. Your son had written me like literally 2 weeks before, and now I'm of the age when you get those messages, and that's like just a crown jewel in your
right.
teaching,
Well, it shows you
you
that
know.
you've made an impact on, and that's why I was talking about these teachers earlier. To kind
Hmm.
of hopefully this would come out. I didn't really want to just be like, hey, let's talk about the incident,
Hmm.
uh, but I was hoping it would kind of come out because it shows that educators, people who of influence, leaders, have that influential power on these kids. Now, I mean, he's 22 years old, but
Yeah.
uh, obviously he was in high school, middle school, whatever it was that
Hmm.
when he you were teaching, and he loved it. Like, and he absolutely calls you one of his favorite teachers ever. Like, so, and obviously it shows by him writing you that, which was the craziest thing when you read it, because my wife was like, "You're not gonna believe this." And I'm like, "You're not gonna believe what Caden did." And I'm like,
Hmm.
"Oh God, here we go." You know, because Caden's a lot like me. We're off the wall and just
Yeah.
random. And she sent that to me, and it blew me away.
It was such a great timing because I had 3 minutes and I could have written more stuff, but to have his testimony to me was so impactful. And I needed it at the time before even this other stuff came
Right.
up. But my point of bringing that up is I was honestly terrified to do that. And I was encouraged by fellow educators to speak out.
And that's crazy because you're a natural. You know, that's what you did as told stories and spoke
Yeah, he
and
messed
this
with the wrong queen.
and this and this was hard for you to do.
Oh gosh. And
That's crazy.
that's the other thing I should say too is like I could stand on a stage in New York City with 1,000 people
Right.
watching. And like I said, I get nervous and there's pressure. But then
It's a different.
to come to Union County, and I did storytelling evenings
Right.
here for like 6 years. Oh my gosh, the first one I did here, it was an outer body experience because I tell stories about being from here,
Right.
and it sure is safe when you're
When
on
you're
the
when
road
you're
or
in New
you're
York
in,
City.
yeah, or even in Louisville or whatever.
Right.
But here, like, oh gosh, that's her granddad I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah.
it's different.
Yeah.
But the I really thought after going back to that speech I did at the Board of Ed, I really thought I'd be run out of town. And I even was worried about my own safety.
Yeah.
That's a mentality of me getting hit on the head by a rock and being called the F slur.
Right.
I don't want you to have to beep anything,
Right.
but
Right. No.
or
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
say it
Yeah.
because it's powerful.
Right.
But like that's where being bullied here, but what, and I'm knocking on wood, but what happened for me was, I'm getting stopped in Walmart by grandmothers saying, my granddaughter's a lesbian. And thank you. Like, I needed to hear that. Thank you for standing up. Like, I had no idea that. And then the messages that came in from students, like, it was, and it happened all so fast. And then it went viral. And, like, I have a friend in Sweden who's like, "You're on TV here." I got a call from
Wow.
Canada. My roommate from Murray was in Canada, and I've seen you on this website. And then they're back in when the 80s, 90s, there was a magazine called The Advocate. It'd come in brown paper, and it was like one of the only news magazines you could get that spoke about politics and where things were happening in the gay community at the
So it
time.
was like kind of restricted, kind of like when you go to
Yeah,
buy a Playboy or
yeah,
one of them
but it
magazines.
wasn't. pornography. It
Wonder
was
why it came into
news, but like you back then, it was so scary. You didn't want people to know.
so that's why they came into kind
Right.
of rap.
Yeah. But then I got on the Advocate website, and so I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm in the
You made
Advocate.
it.
I'm in the Pink New,"
You-
and then
right.
I like turned up on a podcast, and it just like got all this traction. And you know how things are now within like 5 to 10 days, it
Yeah.
was over. But
Yeah.
for the first like 72 hours, it was nonstop messages from
Right.
all over the world. It was unbelievable. And I was like scared. Like I just stayed at home because I was like scared. But I credit, the people around here for it was just unreal how the reception.
Well, I think what it was, and I'm speaking for myself and myself only, is we get tired of hearing. I get tired of the negativity. I get tired of the fighting and the arguing and just the stupid crap that's going on in the world. But the comments that was made during that were so disgusting. I'm a redneck, beer drinking country boy, raised Baptist.
Hmm.
Uh,
There's a gun over there.
no, no, there's
Sorry, a
raised
little
Baptist,
scared.
raised Baptist and a Bible thumper, at one time, and that was disgusting. Like it was like I don't know. I don't know the gentleman that said it, and I'm not going to bring his name up because I don't want him to get that attention, even though we're talking about it. It was disgusting. I'm like, why? What? Why? There's other ways to handle that situation
Hmm.
than what you just did. And then for you to come in the way you came in and voice your, to tell your story, because I was going to say opinion, but it wasn't an opinion, it's a story.
Hmm.
To tell your story, if we had people like you out here telling these stories, people like him would understand. Does that make any sense to me? I think if they heard you, people that can tell stories like you tell stories would understand.
And honestly, when I was asked by someone in a position that holds weight to
Mhm.
do this, he may have poured me a nice glass of bourbon
Nice
as well.
talk. That's
Yes.
perfect.
Expensive too, because I'm expensive.
Nice.
No,
Right, right.
but I went home and
I need
stayed
to
at.
up my game. I'm over
There
here
you
getting
go.
Walmart
Come
water.
on. But I went home and stayed up all night and wrote an hour-long speech. Um, that was scathing, honestly.
Yeah.
And I got it all out. And then I distilled it and called coaches, storytellers that I've worked with
Mhm.
all over, and said, this is probably going to be one of the most important stories I'm going to tell. And
Yeah.
I've got 3 minutes. And that's when you get down to adjectives and words until I compare it to bourbon. You keep distilling and distilling and years of experience until you get like um, just that succinct, clear,
Perfect sip.
perfect, but that's deeply layered. But you don't have to use a lot of words.
Right.
And it all came down to compassion.
Yeah.
Like I feel sorry for him,
Right.
and I say that from a very real place,
Right.
because he's hurting,
Yeah.
and I probably know why he's hurting, and that makes me feel really sad for him at his age, and of course I was hurt and angry, but that wasn't about me. you know Although I asked, are you sure that's about me, because he was smart, he didn't use names,
Mhm.
but I was assured by the powers that be that it was about me.
Right. Right.
Which then I felt special, but like, but anyway, it's like I but I'll be honest, when I had worked so hard on this, and I knew I had 3 minutes, and then the media had already covered it, and so I wanted the media to hear another side. So I reached out to the media to let them know what was going on, and because I wanted them to hear the other point.
Right.
Um, and then I asked a lot people to come, and they showed up. So it was a bit of a pressure cooker. And then when it came to public comment, he wanted to leave.
Yeah.
And then I'm human.
Makes you mad, didn't it?
Yeah, no matter how I coach or how many competitions I've done, I'm still human. And it flew all over me.
It, you know, what got me, that got me too, because when I found out that you gave your story, you told your story, and then he wanted to leave, I thought, that SOB. Are
Now
you
he did
freaking kidding
leave,
me? Yeah,
but
right.
he tried to
Right.
leave on me,
Yes.
and I was like, oh,
It's
I see. Uh-huh. I was like, no, no, no. It's like, what, you can't
yeah, let's
leave.
go. Let's
Like,
go.
I've been working on
Right.
this,
Yeah.
by speech for.
I got to hear you. You need to hear me.
You're right.
Exactly.
Like you
Yeah.
don't. And I will say this: he held my gaze. He held my eye. He listened. I think he listened, and I commend him for that. Now, it's a shame for Cheryl Ladd and Evelyn Meacham that they didn't get to tell their story. I mean, they got to tell him, but not to him. And it was for his benefit as well.
Right.
And also, it's like the person wants to speak to that person. And
Right.
if you don't give them that honor and respect as an elected official, then we're not going to move forward.
No, absolutely not.
So then when he went to leave, I had ran out to the hall just to not come apart, just to kind of like
Yeah.
catch my breath. And I turned, and there he was in the hall. And I went to shake his hand, and he wouldn't shake my
Wow.
hand. And then I was really mad. And I just yelled, coward,
You're getting mad right now, aren't you? Just thinking about
coward, you know? And my business partner, Jarvis Elam, he's like,
it.
he had a brownout and kind of like went on one side, and there was another, and they were like chasing him down the hall. And,
Yeah.
but again, my producer hat, the media was there. I was like, follow him, follow him.
Right.
Get
it.
this on
Yeah.
camera.
Yeah, this is a good angle.
Yes.
Right. Oh man.
It was such a moment in my,
Yeah, this has been such a amazing interview with you. This is I've had some really if you've watched anyone, man, this is probably my favorite interview. This is probably going to be my favorite interview. It's been such an enlightening.
You say that every
I
time,
do.
Rick.
I do. It's
I
been
know how
so
you are.
enlightening. It's been so enlightening. I've learned a lot, and I'm eager to hear more of your stories. I've been following your poetry stuff that you've been posting, but I want to hear some of them stories.
Go to YouTube,
I'm gonna have to.
but I'm a lot
You had-
thinner and
So I went to. You had a web. Looked like there was a website at one time.
yeah,
I went to. It's
let the
gone.
website go.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was trying to find. And I'm on YouTube. I do YouTube stuff all the time, and I didn't even think about going to YouTube to find
Yeah,
you. So I was
yeah.
just stalking your Facebook and your TikTok. So,
Yeah.
uh,
If you go to
Man.
YouTube, that's where all the stories
and
are.
what's it under on YouTube?
Just Mark Lamb. And
Okay.
if you just put in like Mark Lamb story in the
It'll pop.
search,
Yeah,
it'll
'cause
come
I
up.
mean, you're pretty well known around, especially these parts. I say that with my country twang accent. These parts here. Uh, you've done some shows at Breckenridge Center.
Hmm.
Just some sit down shows.
And
You plan on doing it anytime soon again, or maybe for like a benefit or something?
yeah, all those were benefits for the dance program I did here. And I used to produce shows, and then when COVID happened, I quit producing the storytelling shows and the dance shows with the kids. And I wanted to bring it back, but so many of my circumstances have
Just kind of,
changed.
yeah.
Um, with my mom and just kind of my energy of what
Right.
and I'm hoping that I want to keep teaching, but I'm hoping that eventually we'll I'll be able to partner with more people and maybe find some younger people
Kind
to
of
kind
just
of carry that torch. But I would really like to do the storytelling piece
yeah,
again. I even thought about maybe a radio show or um,
maybe own something.
yeah,
That'd be
that
cool.
that because there's been
Style it in like the fashion of an old timey radio show. That
that's
would be
kind of
really
what I was
cool.
thinking with because I like to pepper the stories with music.
Yeah, we're gonna have to.
So
Yeah, I like
there
this.
could be that kind of thing. Right now, I have a landscape business.
Yeah, and we didn't even touch on that.
Yeah,
What it's landscapes is what it's called. I
landscapes.
like that
Yeah,
catchy name.
yeah, and
Um,
gardens that tell a story is our
yeah.
byline. And that just came about from COVID. My friends in New York City couldn't even leave their apartments. They couldn't get masks. I
Wow.
was like calling Carol Martin because she has quilt pieces, and
Right.
there were ladies sewing together masks so I could,
Yeah.
forward them to. But it was March, spring was springing, and I was started just wanted my friends to know that life was still happening and hear bird song. And I'm showing myself working in the yard, and I post about every day of that.
Mm-hmm.
And someone in Sturgis said, "Will you come do some design in my yard?" It was probably no bigger than this room, the bed. Did it, put that on Facebook, and before I know it, within like 6 months, I was doing a
Just
landscape
busy.
business.
Yeah.
And Jarvis was actually a storyteller on my show that got canceled because of COVID.
Oh
And
wow.
part of his story was he worked in landscape to pay his way through college with his wrestling scholarship. So I remembered, and I called him like, Jarvis, dude, this people are wanting me to do landscape, and he's like, I'm in. And I said, let's do an audition. We'll do one together and see how it goes. And it just clicked.
You know what would be cool? You could probably do it. Is why you're doing these landscapes. You're telling a story, actually telling a story.
Yeah.
Just kind of piece it together. That would be
I've
neat.
thought about that with my
Get you
TikToks.
some little lapel mics, and
Yeah. And we
that would be cool.
we did some YouTube like tips on how to do things, but doing this is not easy.
This is not.
It takes a lot of work, a lot of editing.
It does.
And then with technology too, sometimes you do all that work and then all of a sudden something glitches,
Where's it at?
and
Yeah,
then you're
I've
like,
had it happen.
oh, there's 2 more hours or it's gone.
So
you know.
my very first interview, I interviewed, um, thought everything was great. Had multiple cameras set up. Everything was going good. Go back to play it back. There's an echo. Couldn't use none of it. I tried to clean it up. Couldn't use. Now, if I would have probably paid somebody to send it off, I could probably get it cleaned up. But I had no idea how to do it. Literally had one thing plugged in the wrong spot,
Oh,
and I still haven't been able to get him back in here because he's been so busy. But eventually, it's gonna happen.
it's just heartbreaking.
It is. It is. It's tough. Well, yeah, that's really cool, man. That's you have lived a very interesting, intriguing, and blessed life doing all this stuff. And like I said, I love telling stories. I love storytelling.
Mhm.
My friends are like, I never know if you're telling me the truth or not because I just like to talk, like to tell stories.
And Rick, I want to say about the storytelling thing in Union County, especially. I would venture to say West Kentucky or maybe even the South, but I'm going to take pride in Union County. There is something about, and it's still a little around, but the old school, like the people I grew up with that were adults in my life, there's something about the cadence of the voice. There's something about how they know how to tell a story. Like eventually, as storytelling opened up for me, I learned markers that I know are a recipe for a great story.
Right.
But think about my uncles and aunts and how they told stories. It was formulaic like
Yeah,
that,
absolutely.
you know? So there's something about Union County that people are natural storytellers. Just,
My grandfather I loved listening to him and my uncle Jim. They would tell a story, and you would know it was bullcrap, but the way they told it was just so just captivating, you know. And so I understand exactly what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I know several of them around here that when they start talking, I've been in Walmart and I've heard them talk and be telling a story about something on the farm or whatever. And I'm just
Yeah.
like, I just stop. I'm
Yeah.
just like, wow, that's so cool, you know.
Yeah. You
So,
just,
and you've got that about you as well. It's just that when you told the Dolly story, I was just like, man, this is so. It was really cool that I got to experience that firsthand
oh,
with nothing.
I
You know,
hope it was
not,
okay. I just
it was
pulled it
awesome.
out.
It's awesome. It's awesome, and I really appreciate you coming today. Um,
Thanks.
the storytelling radio show is something that I think you should think about. I think it would be really cool. I'm interested in it. Seeing what we could figure that out.
That would be
That would be
cool.
fun. That'd be a
Yeah.
lot of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so connections you've got, hook me up, help me out. I need to see Les Mis.
Yeah.
So if you know anybody, no, I would absolutely buy the tickets, but actually need to get on there and look and see if it's going to be anywhere close. That's
Yeah. And it's been in the news a little
yeah,
bit
yeah.
because it's relative to what's going
It is.
on.
It's neat. It's neat
Hmm.
and it's crazy. And I came about it. A friend of mine many years ago, almost 20 something years ago now, had a VHS tape of the original London production, and we watched it. And he was like, and he played the guitar, and he's real super musical,
Hmm.
manly, ex-marine. Just he's like, check this out. And I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, I secretly like this, right?
Right.
And then I love it. Like it's my
Hmm.
favorite of all. It's I just absolutely love it. So y'all think whatever you want to think. I don't even care.
Right.
So thank you so much for coming,
Thank
man.
you.
I know you're busy and it's been a little hard to kind of connect, but I know we talked about some hard stuff and it was good. I liked it. I like getting that out there, and things are so controversial and it shouldn't be controversial. And I think you're helping make them not be controversial by uh, going viral with your story that you told, which is crazy, right?
Hmm.
But I think I'm excited to see you get back out there telling stories because I think that helps people. You know, for my son to message you and say what he said, that tells me something.
Hmm.
So thanks for coming, dude.
Thanks
Thank you,
for having me.
and
I appreciate it.
I can't wait to see where this friendship hopefully
Yeah.
blossoms
Yeah.
and comes, because I may call you and be like, Mark, tell me a story, dude, and put you on speakerphone while I'm driving up the road, taking a patient to Indianapolis or something,
Yeah.
because you've got that, and obviously you know that because you've traveled, you've been able to travel. So thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Is there anything you want us to tell anybody or say before we go? I want to give you that opportunity real quick.
Uh, I just, I'm glad to be back in Union County. Um, I'm going to be here for a while,
Good.
maybe the rest of my life. I'm dug in, and you know, uh, I'm excited to see what the future holds.
Good. I think everybody else that knows you and friends with you are excited as well. So, with that being said, my buddy Frenchie always says, y'all be kind to each other.
Respect, no judgment. Open up, say what you wanna say. Be real, be kind. Free speech, make this a better day. You got a voice, a story to be heard.